everyone, it's Frankie-Lou. I'm coming to you today from the kitchen of the Grow Together homestead, where it is a scorcher outside right now. We're going through a heat wave, so I'm trying to do some preserving that doesn't require any heat, like boiling up, setting up my can or anything like that. And one of the things that I also like to do right now, because we all know that when heat comes, some of our cool crops like lettuce and spinach can bolt. So I'm trying to preserve some of that before that is inevitably going to happen this week. I grow a whole lot of spinach and lettuce, more than I could ever eat fresh, because I also use those crops as a mulch, sort of as a companion plant for a lot of my other crops, and I like to fill my beds so there's less weeding. So that means I got beds and beds that need to be preserved now before they bolt. That being said, if it has bolted, I don't want to use it, because when you dry food, it can intensify the flavor, and so lettuce often goes quite bitter when it bolts, and you don't want to intensify the bitter flavor. This little powder that I make is really great for adding nutrition, and I really like the plain spinach powder to add to dips and stuff because I really enjoy the flavor of that. But I have a very picky eater, my 12-year-old son Angus, who doesn't like to eat greens, but I can put some of this in his smoothies and he doesn't even know. And he's eating like a handful of spinach or a handful of lettuce and he doesn't even know. So that's good. I also put it in sauces, soups, all sorts of stuff. It's not hard, it's not a recipe per se, but it is a technique. You can really preserve a lot of greens this way very quickly. So yesterday I went out and I picked bright and early in the morning when it was nice and gorgeous, still not very hot, and that's always when I do tend to do most of my harvesting first thing in the morning. This was mounded over. I then loaded it into my dehydrator, which I'll show you a picture of that here. I dehydrated it, and now it's amazing how much this has decreased. Basically, I'm left with this much, which is hard to believe when you see how much I actually had at the start there. Now you may ask, why aren't you just freezing it? And I do love frozen spinach, but I don't have a ton of room in my freezer. To freeze all the spinach that I had, I would have to have a dedicated freezer, whereas I can get this down to a few tablespoons of powder, which can be used throughout the year. And it actually keeps longer, it doesn't require as much energy, doesn't require as much space. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've dried this out. I'm going to put it onto a piece of parchment paper. I used to just sort of try to move it into the blender, and invariably we ended up with little bits of spinach everywhere. So this is sort of a easier way to deal with it. All right, I've got a piece of parchment paper split out here. I'm going to do this to get it so that'll, my hands are clean, obviously. So I want to get it so that I can get this into my little blender here. My little smoothie size blender is perfect for this. It smells really good, and the spinach is my favorite thing to do this with, although I have done this with kale and I have done it with lettuce, and I'll show you how to layer it out in the, I've got some lettuce I picked just now. That'll show you how. See, and then there, you don't have as much spilling when you use it this way. Let's look at a little, because I'm kind of clumsy girl. Okay, so that's about half of it. You want to make sure that you dry it to completely brittle. And honestly, it's very frustrating because I find that with all the different dehydrators I've used, they each have different sort of drying speeds and times, and you really have to play with what you've got to find out what works well. I also rotate my trays quite a bit. That helps. And I found, let's see, this spinach took 9 hours at 140. Okay, your dehydrator might be different. That's with rotating trays. Okay, I'm just going to whiz this up now. It's always amazing to me how much this reduces down. So when you're thinking of preserving bulky produce like lettuce and spinach this is a bit of a lifesaver for me. It's also really pretty. Like, I like adding it to dips. And you get that nice green. I like things that are green. Shocker. Look at that. I'm gonna do the second batch here. It smells really good too. My spinach has been so beautiful this year. I'm really happy I can use this. There you go. I have got exactly half a cup. Half a cup of powder, green delicious powder from this much. Like we're talking, it was mounded over like this, okay? So that's a really, really efficient way to do some preserving, and it's quite yummy. So this is also another way to do lettuce, and I'm going to show you that now. And you can mix it together. I like to keep it a little separate because I do like to use the spinach on its own a lot, but I also do it with my lettuce, and I'll show you how to layer it in and how to, this is really, salad spinner's your best friend here, okay, if you have one of those. If not, you can roll it in paper towels after you've cleaned it. But honestly, this really makes life easier. When you're choosing lettuce, you want to get your prime lettuce, right? You don't want to pick lettuce that's wilted. You want nice, beautiful leaves, harvesting first thing in the morning. And honestly, this lettuce this year, oh, I started it with my milk jugs, and it's the nicest. Some of the stuff I've grown is just the most beautiful lettuce I've ever had. So I'm going to break it up because these pieces are so big, it'd be hard to layer it. You don't want them overlapping in the tray very much. They can overlap a little because honestly, it's amazing how much they start. Oh, I got a little spinach I'll throw in there too. And I'm going to use my salad spinner to get excess moisture off. I like doing this too. It's kind of fun. So look at all the water. I got lots of water taken off of that, which I'm not going to make my dehydrator after work to take it out. And I'm going to layer this nicely now. Slightly overlapping. Just don't pile it all in one place. So the lettuce has a very mild flavor, unless you have a really, oh, I've done it with arugula before, and that's you either love arugula or you find it a little bitter. I do use it in some of these powders when I want to add like flavor to a soup. It's good. Because man, arugula bolts quickly. And this is one of the ways that I can keep on top of it. I'm also going to put the dehydrator outside because even though it's only going to be running at 140 degrees, on a day like today, you feel that. All right, I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to let that go. Like I said, my dehydrator, I find that it takes 8 to 10 hours at 140, depending on, like this isn't a fully loaded one, so it won't take that long. It'll be closer to the 8 than the 10. Do rotate the trays, and you'll end up with a really nice little powder. I'm going to store that in, with my spices and stuff in a nice dark cupboard in a mason jar. Label it. You're not, because you're like, what the heck is, make sure you label it, okay, what exactly it is. And yeah, I hope you give it a try, because if you're like me, you don't want all that delicious goodness to go to waste, and particularly the spinach. I won't lie, it is my most favorite thing, green, to dehydrate, because it just is so darn tasty. And it's a way to keep that nutrition for the summer. The drying doesn't reduce that much of the nutrition. It keeps it in there for you. Good soluble source of fiber, good source of iron, so why not give it a go? If you've got some stuff that's ready to bolt, it might be a good way to make sure that it doesn't. And if you don't have a lot of room in your freezer like me. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you'll give it a try. As always, let me know if you have any questions about this or any of the other techniques. I'm going to be doing a whole bunch more preserving today, making some more liqueur. I'm going to be making some spruce tip syrup. Going to be processing some jam outside. So let me know if there's other things you want to see. And I hope, as always, you'll take this chance to go together today. Have a good one.